Hello everybody, welcome to our third episode of Chai with PMs. Today with me I have Abhishek, who's Associate Vice President at Paytm and he's handling payments at Paytm. Prior to this, he was working with e-commerce platform Flipkart. Hello Abhishek, thanks for giving us your valuable time.
No worries, and thanks Samyak for having me here. It's really good to connect and would look forward for an interesting conversation.
Thanks a lot, Abhishek. In this Chai with PMs, we help aspiring product managers to learn and gain from people who are leading products across India or across globe.
Very cool.
Before we start, I wanted to know your journey as a product manager, how it started, what were the challenges you faced, so that our audience can help from your great journey of AVP.
Sure, Samyak. My journey specifically has been very interesting because I did not know that I wanted to be a product manager, and like many PMs around us, because when I was working with Flipkart, which was my first job post my college, I was trying to do multiple products there where I was trying to solve problems related to checkout, related to payments. We were doing what we call as big billion days in Flipkart for the first time, and there were a lot of product solutions which had to be solved from the beginning, right? And I do not know what product management is, but somehow while doing those stuff, different projects around, it got to me that practically this is a new role which I can do better, and that kind of kicked off when I joined Paytm, because I joined Paytm in payments, and payments as a industry was kind of evolving at a very fast pace. It still is, right? So and when I was actually working in Paytm as a starting product manager, I was fascinated to see the kind of product related impact a person can bring in.
Absolutely.
By sort of building products, which is called as building products at scale, right? Which is going through what your users are actually having feedbacks about product, looking at what kind of problem statements you need to solve which are actually relevant for the organization as well as for the users who are actually using your product, and then creating what is called as outcome, right? Which basically not just solves your metrics but also creates an impact which is like a far reaching one. So it has happened as a journey, right? Because even today, the kind of learnings or findings I get in me as a product manager is something I just keep questioning myself and then use that to sort of become a better product manager every day, right? So slightly wrong answer, but yeah, that's
This is definitely very, very fascinating. I can recall 2-3 or words or coins that you have mentioned. One is big billion day, another is products at scale. Can you elaborate more on these? What big billion day is a test for everybody, be it a product manager or a developer. So some numbers around big billion days, and when you mentioned product at scale at Paytm, what are those numbers that you are looking at?
Sure. So see, ultimately products at scale are categorized from what we call as the impact it brings, right? And the impact, as you rightly said, could be in the form of numbers. So just to give you perspective, right? In terms of, if you look at payments as an industry, or if you look at e-commerce as an industry, and the way offers are actually run, right? We used to when the first big billion day was launched, I remember it was like a close to 300 to 400 crore event in terms of just one
massive
marketing offer which we used to get with running with banks, where banks used to sort of co-sponsor offers with e-commerce players like Flipkart, Amazon, and a lot of others, and which has been a trend which has now set in. Cut to Paytm as a journey and payments as a journey. Payments as a market is massive. Nobody, everyone understands that, right? If you look at the kind of products which Paytm has, for instance, right? It is 70 million monthly active users are essentially
70 million.
Using Paytm app for payments, and a lot of other services were primarily payments. So that gives the impact that when you build products at that scale, there's a term which we use internally, which is corner cases are not that corner anymore, right? So
yeah, definitely.
So that to me is the definition of building products at scale, which is to get a sense of what the numbers are and then use that to identify what kind of use cases you have to build, which kind of does justice with those numbers and the users who are using it.
Interesting. You mentioned 70 million. That's like 5% of whole India as an audience. And when I decide numbers, it's obviously a niche business. We are working on cancer early detection. So our audience is relatively smaller, but 5% of whole India is a huge. And I think it's massive and very fascinating what you're working at Paytm as a product, as a payments as a solution. What do you think, e-commerce or fintech? Which is the most fascinating domain in today's product manager community?
I think it is hard to choose one because actually I have a very different perspective that e-commerce and fintech kind of actually complement each other, and
True.
And the reason for that is we've been able to see e-commerce grow in India that well because at the back of a very strong and a scalable payments platform which India has now, courtesy to players like Paytm, courtesy to the growth of UPI which has happened, right? And of course e-commerce courtesy to players like Flipkart, Amazon, and a lot of other players who have been here. Reason for that is, I mean, there used to be a time when cash on delivery was the most preferred option of purchasing any particular product online, right?
True.
There was a huge trust deficit where users were not very sure that, okay, if I make a payment early, right now at the time of checkout, will I get the shipment or not, right? And cut to 2022, which is today's time, when prepaid products, to my understanding, are actually prepaid payment share is the highest in terms of e-commerce payments. Why that has happened is because e-commerce and payments have kind of complemented each other to create that growth. That's what my take is. So it is very hard to pick one because every product domain, and not just these two, even others, will have their own set of problems, will have their own set of challenges which need to be overcome, and awesome products need to be built out of them. But yeah, irrespective of whichever domain you are, right, you will always find things which fascinates or excites you, where you can actually build products which you can create an outcome for and feel personally very satisfying that this is something which I have sort of created.
Interesting. You have mentioned cash on delivery was definitely a problem earlier, and today if we see a lot of people do online transactions, they are not scared of losing their, let's say, card details or any other details, because UPI, as you mentioned, have made sure that it's completely secure. So building trust is a very, very important quality when you are developing products. Talking specifically about payments with fintech or let's say with e-commerce, what do you think is again a pain point that is still missing?
So you talked about refund. So refund has actually refund as an experience for users, as a product experience, has drastically improved if you compare it with couple of years ago to now. And
True.
A lot of that has actually happened because of this awareness which has come across the industry. Just to give a background about payments, right? When you are processing payments or refunds, it is not just one player which is actually doing that.
Right.
There are multiple parties which come in the ecosystem, which will essentially may or may not be in your control, because there are banks, then there are networks who play a role in processing those transactions and refunds. It is very heartening to see that all of these, or almost all of these players, have actually acknowledged this problem and have made significant strides to solve refund as an issue. So while there are still few points which need to be addressed, but as a product it has evolved very maturely so far, is what my take is. There are though a couple of other pointers or issues which a lot of industry players are working on.
True.
We in Paytm are also basically work upon them. There, for example, I mean, the most recent thing which is happening from a payments industry point of view, which I can talk about, is what is called as card tokenization, right? And card tokenization is an initiative taken by RBI, which basically mandates which creates guiding rules in terms of how card payments will be processed in this country.
Interesting.
Which is a step in the right direction as far as card security and payments from cards is concerned. So a lot of that work is happening, and there are similarly other product enhancements which happen at an industry level in both payments and e-commerce. but yeah, it's, I mean, we are significantly improving. And if you would have noticed market reports, India as a payments market,
Right.
and India as an e-commerce market is like leaps ahead compared
Yes,
to
yes.
other countries in
True.
not just Southeast Asia but even in the West. You don't have a system like UPI anywhere, right? And you don't have companies like Paytm who essentially are revolutionizing the way payments are done, or Flipkart who are revolutionizing the way e-commerce purchases are made. So
True. One
combination
comparison
of
that people are making after this Ukraine war, the way Russia is facing issues because of not having a solution like Paytm
Yes,
is a
exactly.
very interesting problem that Paytm has solved or UPI has solved in a country like India. And it's phenomenal to see even people across domains, across segments, be it a person who's the top leader, like let's say a prime minister or chief minister, I won't say the down the level, but anybody on the street vendor even are using UPIs, which is a phenomenal way of how go-to-market strategies work.
This is a degree of self-reliance which basically helps us in the long run, actually. Just to add
Definitely,
that. Yeah.
definitely. One interesting point I can also related to refunds. My personal experience with Food Panda versus Swiggy has definitely changed, because the way Food Panda used to refunds was a very terrible experience. But on the other hand, Swiggy, that was a phenomenal experience, and I completely switched to Swiggy. So that's how even refunds play a very crucial role. If you have something to add on to that.
Absolutely, I agree, because ultimately you may never know that there could be when you actually cater to such huge volumes of consumers, the examples of the apps you talked about, right? You may never know what basically hit you when that customer actually left your platform, right? You would always expect that the overall ordering experience, was it good? And a lot of companies focus on what are their P0 use cases, right?
True.
But sometimes things like cancellations are massive consumer experience products which, if not taken well, may relate to. And that is the reason that we started focusing on refunds. In Paytm also long back, we were building a product called as instant refunds, I remember, which basically credits money to your account or to your source of payment instantly.
Interesting.
Instead of waiting for those 7 to 8 days, which a lot of companies, if you have noticed, talks about when you are cancelling a product, right? That money will sort of reflect in 7 to 8 days.